Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Index Seminars. Today we have Jijith Nadumuri Ravi with us, extensive scholar. He's worked with ISRO as a scientist, and his primary interest, I feel now, is that he studies Vedas and Puranas and Itihas and comes up with all kinds of statistics and information and presents to us in form of books. The first book he published was the Geography of the Rigvedic. The second one is essentially today's talk is all about is the Ramayana. And I think an upcoming book is on the Mahabharata as well, the Geography of Mahabharata. All his findings and facts are presented exclusively in these three volumes. So welcome, Jijith. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, all warm welcome for this talk. So as Samir ji has mentioned, I'm actually capturing the geochronology of the Vedic age and the Itihasic age into 3 books. So the Rigveda is the first one, the rivers of Rigveda, which anchors some of the basic information and data. And using the Rigveda as the sheet anchor for the geography as well as the chronology, I established connections from the Rigveda into Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Though this kind of research is very the first of its kind, because if you look at the last 70 years of research, there are some isolated scholars focusing on Ramayana and giving dates of Ramayana, and some other isolated scholars focusing on the Mahabharata and giving dates on Mahabharata, and very less number of people focusing on Rigveda, especially studying the geography as well as chronology present inside the Rigveda. Of course, the literature, philosophy studies, there are so large number of people, but very few people focus on the geographical and chronological aspect of the Rigveda. So I present you the findings of my studies, especially connecting Rigveda with the Ramayana. And of course, a new volume that is on the geography of Mahabharata is just in the horizon. The book may be released the next week, Monday, expecting from Monday to Friday, or within 2 weeks. So with that, I just start my presentation. So basically now, this is the book Geography of Ramayana that you see in the screen. And it is a one of its kind book in the Aitihasic geochronology. When I publish in the Amazon, they have classified it as history, geography, Aitihasic geochronology, etc. Because this is one of the rarest book which is focusing on both the geography and chronology. It's available in the Amazon India or UK, USA. It's international publication, so it's available all over the world through Amazon primarily, but Flipkart and Notion Press, and also ebook as in Amazon Kindle, Google Play Store, Kobo, etc. And as I said, the first book of its kind is the comparative analysis of Rigveda and Ramayana, the comparative analysis of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And this is the only book I'm able to say with pride that have the 3 books having comparative analysis, like Rigveda, Ramayana, and the Mahabharata, 3 books together. And one of the specialities around 606, that is 606 sargas and 18,670 Ślokas found in Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa critical edition is completely analyzed in the book. All these various geography maps, that around 80 plus geography maps is there in the book. And the linkages, like the Ramayana geography with the Rigvedic geography and Mahabharata geography, and large number of riddles in the Ramayana geography. When I say riddle, most of the people approaching Ramayana as a book of devotion or as literature, they will not find any riddles. But when you look at this Ramayana geography from the point of a historian or a geographer, there are a lot of riddles. For example, all of us agree that Rama is older than like Pandavas, but when we say there are a lot of problems. It's not like straightforward. If Rama is older than Mahabharata Kurukshetra war, then you will expect the geography to be somewhere midway between the Rigvedic geography as well as the Mahabharata geography. So the Mahabharata geography or the geography of the Pandavas is a larger area, covers a larger area of the Bharatavarsha. And Rigvedic geography covers the northwestern India, from the western Uttar Pradesh to eastern Afghanistan, in the east to west, and north to south it is from Kashmir Valley, Kashmir to Gujarat. So that much area is covered in the Rigvedic geography. And the Mahabharata geography covers almost straight direct references. Straight away it covers anything northern to the Godavari river. Of course, indirectly it mentioned Pandichola, Kerala, and so it's all over India it is covering. So naturally we expect the Rama, who is earlier than the Pandavas and after the Rigveda, has to be somewhere in the midway. But in the Ramayana geography, you see so much of information mentioned about southern kingdom, etc. So it creates an anomaly. So I have solved the primary that anomaly, and also so many other anomalies related to the Yojana distances, and when you Ayodhya is mentioned as 12 Yojana long and 3 Yojanas wide, and if you apply the normal values of Yojana, that is between 6 to 6 kilometer, 8 kilometer, 12 kilometer, 13 kilometer, so 1 Yojana, the Ayodhya dimension is completely becomes unreasonable. It is covering almost half of or 1/4 of Uttar Pradesh, and even encroaching Lucknow and other cities. So I have found out there are 2 sets of Yojanas in the Ramayana. The smaller Yojana is used for measuring length and breadth and width of cities, mountain peaks, and bridges, even Rama Setu, etc. That is Nala Setu. So that is 120 meters long. And the larger Yojana, which is used to measure the point-to-point distance, that is Ayodhya to Chitrakuta, or Prayaga to Chitrakuta, or Chitrakuta to Sudishna Asrama, or Sudishna Asrama to Agastya Asrama, Agastya Asrama to Panchavadi. So that is one point to another point. So for that, there is another Yojana, which is 48 kilometers in long. So once you apply the formula, every Yojana references mentioned in the Ramayana becomes absolutely coming into like a jigsaw puzzle solution, like a Rubik cube solution, solving that it all comes perfect alignment. So that is one of the riddles. And then there are so many other riddles, like typically the normal people believe that Rama straight away went southwards, but that is not, you see in the Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa, sloka by sloka, if you look at Rama moving westwards, Rama is moving northwards. For example, after meeting Agastya, there is after they reach Chitrakuta, from Ayodhya to Chitrakuta, the whatever narrative in the Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa perfectly match with the locations that is identified in the tradition. So Rama crossing the river, from Ayodhya, he crosses a local Tamasa river. Then he crosses so many other rivers like Syandiga, Gomadi and Syandiga, and then reach Ganga. Before that, Shringiverapura. After crossing Ganga, he goes to Prayaga, which is the Prayagraj. And then from there, he goes to Chitrakuta, which is again in the Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh border. Everything perfect. But from Chitrakuta onwards, when he moves towards Panchavadi, there are a lot of confusion. So the tradition have identified Charabanga Asrama and Sudikshna Asrama. They are perfect. That locations are correct. From Sudikshna Asrama, Rama moves to Agastya Asrama to the south. So southern motion is only mentioned up to Agastya Asrama, and Agastya Asrama is mentioned as Siddhanath Mandir again in Madhya Pradesh, to the northern foothills of the Vindhya mountain ranges. So that Siddhanath Mandir also is a traditional located Agastya Asrama, where the Rama has visited. From there, onwards, the tradition, the people's belief and the actual movement of Rama is different. Because in the Ramayana, it is mentioned Agastya pointed towards moving northwards. That go to the north, and you will see a location, Panchavadi. So that northward motion is most of the researchers ignore the northward motion. They try to trace Rama to Nasik, which is mostly popularly identified as Panchavadi. But from Agastya Asrama, that is in the Siddhanath Mandir in Madhya Pradesh, we can't go northwards and reach Nasik. So from there onwards, there are differences in the tradition. And then there is a westward motion, like after the Rama, this Ravana abducted Sita. Rama was searching for Sita. So from this Janasthana, he moves southwards up to meeting Kabandha. Kabandha is a deformed Rakshasa. So after, while killing the Kabandha, he also gave an instruction of how to reach Kishkinda, which is, he mentioned, go westwards. And again, many researchers ignore that, and then they again trace it to southwards, thinking that Kishkinda is Hampi, etc. But the Rama, this clearly the instruction is to go westwards. So he go westwards and reach Kishkinda. And then there is another instance of Maricha, and Ravana goes and they goes to Asrama Mandala to abduct Sita. So the Asrama Mandala is mentioned multiple times in the Ramayana, in the Aranyakanda, and it is very clearly in this region, very close to Chitrakuta and other places. So again, the Asrama Mandala has to be located in Madhya Pradesh. In the Dandakaranya has to be located in Madhya Pradesh. Atri Asrama is there, very close to Chitrakuta in the Madhya Pradesh UP border. So all our identification, most of the identification gets into the Madhya Pradesh. And there is very clear mention that Sita is abducted from the Panchavadi inside the Asrama Mandala, which is a circuit of asramas located along the this river in the Dandakaranya, which is mentioned as Godavari. But this Godavari name during the Rama period was actually a name of the ancient name of the Tamasa River. Tamasa River and Godavari are synonymous, like Amshumadi and Yamuna is the same river. Ganga and Bhagirathi or Jannavi, all these three names are referring to Ganga. So similarly, Tamasa River, which is the river of Dandaga, the largest river of Dandakaranya, and Godavari River, they are all same name for the Tamasa River. And on the one end of the Tamasa is Vālmīki Asrama, other end of the Tamasa is the Sudikshna Asrama. That is, Tamasa River originated in the Asrama, close to the Asrama of Sudikshna, and it ends at the Asrama of Vālmīki. Tamasa River is merging with Ganga. So the Ganga Tamasa confluence, that is where Vālmīki Asrama is located. And so you have the Asrama Mandalas, which is located along the Tamasa River, which is also known as Godavari in the Aranyakanda. And that Godavari is a northern river and a tributary of Ganga, southern tributary of Ganga, also known as Tamasa. Today it is known as Stones or Satna River. So these are the reasons why there are so many anomalies and riddles in the Ramayana geography, which I have resolved into in the book. And of course, this is the kind of sequence of the trilogy. Rivers of Rigveda, that is released in January 2022, and then currently we are speaking about Geography of Rāmayaṇa, released this 2023 January, and the next book that is expected, that is again in January 2024, either next week or the week after that. So this is the sequence, and for the today's talk, Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa, which is based on the Geography of Rāmayaṇa, the importance of rivers of Rigveda. The previous book is that I located the Rama and Shantanu, two great kings. Shantanu mentioned in the Mahabharata and Rama mentioned in the Ramayana as contemporary to the 10th mandala of the Rigveda. And of course, a lot of people ask a lot of questions regarding that can that be the same Rama that is Sri Rama, or can it be somebody else? So that I have resolved in the book Rivers of Rigveda, because in the 10th mandala you have another Rama, that is Rama Jamadagnya, that is who is popularly known as Parashurama, but he is not mentioned as a patron king. Parashurama is a composer. He composed many suktas in the 10th mandala of the Rigveda, and he is known as Rama Jamadagnya. But the mention of Rama that I have identified is a different Rama. He is mentioned as a patron king, and he is mentioned as a great king, and he is mentioned as performing a lot of yajnas and giving dakshina, that is the donations to many of the Ritvijas, or the people who perform the yajnas. So that Rama in the 10th mandala is very much correlatable with Sri Rama, who is mentioned in the 6th Kanda as performing a lot of yajnas. And also in the Uttarakanda, he is also again mentioned as performing a lot of yajnas and giving a lot of dakshina. And the reference in Rigveda is for a king and not for a ascetic or a composer like Rama Jamadagnya. So that is very clear. It is a Rama himself mentioned in the 10th mandala of Rigveda. Again, Shantanu is also mentioned in the 10th mandala of Rigveda. And here also very clarity is there because Devapi also mentioned. Shantanu's brother Devapi also mentioned. So it is not some other Shantanu. So I have, based on this, I have also given this chronological understanding that Shantanu and Rama are contemporary kings. One is ruling at Hastinapura and the other is ruling at Ayodhya. And I have mentioned both. It is mentioned in both in the Rigvedic rivers of Rigveda and Geography of Ramayana. I have elaborated it little more. And in the coming book, third book, Geography of Mahabharata, I have also given a table where you can see the comparative age of Sri Rama, how Sri Rama is aging, and Sri Rama's son Lava and Kusha also become old age and embrace Vanaprastha, or they died around the age of 89. When Pandava Bhima conquered Ayodhya, when a king called Dirgha Prajna was ruling the Ayodhya, and another king Brihadbala was another Kosala king, but not ruling from Ayodhya, who was fighting in the Kurukshetra war and killed by Abhimanyu. And all these things I have mentioned in the Geography of Mahabharata. So this entire the puzzle is completely resolved in the third book. But of course, a lot of information is in the second book, Geography of Ramayana. And as I mentioned, a lot of links, connecting links I'm establishing with the Rigveda also, both like, for example, just like the Rigveda anchors both Mahabharata and Ramayana based on the reference to the Shantanu and Sri Rama in the 10th mandal. And as regards chronology, again, the Rigveda helps us to do the anchoring, chronological anchoring of both the Itihasas. Since Shantanu is mentioned as 10th mandala king, automatically it anchors Mahabharata with the 10th mandala of the Rigveda. Because between Shantanu and Pandavas and Parikshit, there are few generations, like Shanu's son Vichitravirya's son Dhritarashtra and Pandu's son, Dhritarashtra's son Kauravas and Pandu's son Pandavas. Pandavas son Abhimanyu's son Parikshit is born 1 year after the Kurukshetra war. Because of that, if you locate the Kurukshetra war, you can calculate back calculate by subtracting around 25 to 35 years for each generation, average generation gap, and then you arrive at the date of Sri Rama. So the reason why we have to arrive at the date of Sri Rama based on Kurukshetra war, there is a reason for that, because many researchers have dated Sri Rama based on the Rama Jataka, that is a horoscope information about Rama's birth, the planet position, nakshatras, etc. But that is considered, this is like a later edition. It's not part of the geography, is a Ramayana critical edition. The critical edition is created by a large number of scholars in the University of Baroda, with taking around 40 years. And they have analyzed thousands of regional versions of Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa and manuscripts, thousands of manuscripts, and then meticulously compared every sloka in different thousands of different versions of Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa, and identified which are the oldest verses and which are the later editions. So in that excising or rejection of the later edition, they have rejected the Rama Jataka also. It's not a surprise, because the entire concept of creating Jatakas, it's popularized in the period of Varaha Mihra and all, around 4th century to 5th century, 6th century period. Around that 200 years between 4th century and 6th century, the Jataka concept, that is personal horoscope, started emerging. So it's not a surprise that it is a later edition. So the important information in the Ramayana, which is people have used, Sarvaja Bala and others used to locate Sri Rama in 5114 BC, is no longer accepted as oldest data, because it's not found in the Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa critical edition. So we can't use that for chronologically locating Sri Rama. So the only way you can locate Sri Rama is, first of all, locate the Kurukshetra war, because in the Mahabharata, similar situation, the position of planets and everything is mentioned, but it is not a later edition. It is part of the critical edition of Mahabharata. Mahabharata, again, thousands of scholars spent more than 50 years, and the thousands and thousands of manuscripts of Mahabharata and the regional versions of Mahabharata, they created a critical edition. But surprisingly, unlike in the Ramayana, the critical edition Mahabharata, the consider this planetary positions mentioned in Mahabharata are not later. They are authentic and inside the core of the Mahabharata. So Kurukshetra war dating doesn't suffer because it is part of the critical edition. All the verses, astronomy verses related, which are useful for dating the Kurukshetra war, they are part of the critical edition of Mahabharata. So you can use that to date the Kurukshetra war, and minus a few generations. Like I mentioned, Shantanu, Vichitravirya, then Pandu, Pandavas, Abhimanyu, and Parikshit. So that many generation you subtract, you around for example, I have used the astronomy date of Dr. Ashok Bhatnagar for Kurukshetra war 1793 BC, and then I subtract the generations around 1940. That is, you can actually approximately 1940 birth of Rama, and because he is contemporary to Shantanu, you can date both Shantanu and Rama to 1940 BC. Of course, maybe people consider it as, oh, this is very random, etc. No, because even Vasishta, who is the grandfather age of Sri Rama, was the priest of Rama. Everybody agree. Vasishta was the priest of Aja, Dasharatha, and Rama. 3 generations, he was the priest. So during the Rama generation, he was almost like a grandfather to Sri Rama. And Vasishta's son is Shakti. Shakti's son is Parashara. Parashara's son is Vyasa. Vyasa's son, of course, through Niyoga, Vyasa's son Pandu and Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra's son is Pandavas. So again, you get the same information. It's not like I am saying Shantanu is contemporary to Sri Rama. So people will question, no, this is very random. No. There is another lineage of ascetic lineage of Vasishta, again, which gives the same information. That is, moreover, the generations match. Like, this Shakti is the son of Vasishta, is almost contemporary to Pradibha, and Parashara is contemporary to Shantanu, because Parashara is of the, because I mentioned Vasishta is the grandfather like for Rama. So Shakti is in the father generation, that's the Dasharatha generation. Parashara is equal in the same generation of Rama and of Shantanu also. So again, that is why in the Mahabharata, Parashara is another husband of Satyavati, like Shantanu is another husband of Satyavati. So Satyavati unites both Parashara and Shantanu. They are all contemporaries. So again, you get the same information, and automatically, like Parashara's son, Vyasa's son is Pandu, of course, Vichitravirya's son also. So Vichitravirya, then this Vyasa, all contemporaries. Parashara and Shantanu and Rama, all contemporaries. So all this, whichever route you take, you reach the same conclusion. This is the reason why if you take the chronology of Rigveda, for which I use Srikant Talagiri's Rigveda, because it's around taking 20 years, he have arrived at the very nicely, he has arrived at the chronology of the Rigveda. So I don't have to do any additional research, but I have taken that this research of Talagiri as a basis for my thesis. So he has found this. This is the sequence, like the 6th, 3rd, and 7th mandala are part of the early Rigvedic period. 4th and 2nd comes to the middle Rigvedic, and 5th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. The last 3 mandalas in sequence in the late Rigvedic period. And of course, like for example, in the 6th mandala, you have Bharadwaja as priest, Devodas as the king. In the 3rd and 7th mandala, you have Sudas as king, and in the 3rd mandala, Vishwamitra was the priest of Sudas, and 7th mandala, Vasishta was the priest of Sudas. Of course, this is these Vishwamitra and Vasishta, they are the early Rigvedic Vishwamitra and Vasishta, because these lineages continue, some of the names are continued, they reappear, because perhaps this early Vishwamitra and Vasishta in the early Rigvedic period, they were very famous. Because of this, their names continue in the subsequently in the middle Rigvedic period and late Rigvedic period. Because there are composers in Rigveda in the 10th mandala with the names Vasishta, Vishwamitra, etc. So they are descendants of the early Rigvedic Vishwamitra and Vasishta, and contemporary to Sri Rama and Aja and Dasharatha, etc. So like that, and then you have in this first mandala is split between middle Rigvedic and late Rigvedic. So the blue color one, the first mandala. So in that first mandala, you have Rudrashva and Sahadeva, that is Suda's descendant Sahadeva as the king, and Rudrashva as an advisor to him. And in the fourth mandala, you have Somaka, that is son of Sahadeva, and Vamadeva as Gautama as the priest. Then you have second mandala Grisamada 3, and then Shantanu Devapi Rama in the 10th mandala, and that after 10th mandala Kurukshetra war. In the last column I mentioned late Rigvedic, Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, Bharadwaja, all these people, these descendants were there in part of the 10th mandala. You can see composers composing suktas in the 10th mandala with these names. What I mentioned is these are this 10th mandala rishis bearing the name of Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, Bharadwaja, Atri, Rama, Jamadagni. They are the people who interacted with Sri Rama. That's what my point is about. And of course, I have based on the chronology, relative chronology of Talagiri, I have derived the absolute chronology. So you have the early Rigvedic period contemporaneous to the early Harappan period, and the mature Harappan period contemporaneous to the middle and the late Rigvedic period. And the late Harappan, that is 1900 to 1300 BC, is where the Kurukshetra war and aftermath, that is the subsequent events succeeding Kurukshetra. All this happened between 1900 BC to 1300 BC. So Shantanu and Rama, Devapi, all these people born in 1940 BC, like towards the end of the late Rigvedic period. So then you see like connecting links between, just like in the Rigveda, connecting links between Rigveda and Ramayana. Here we will connecting links between Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So that is where I have to again surprise you, or maybe or not a surprise for many, that Ramayana contains Hastinapura, Kurujangala, Panjala, all these like Janapada names and city name very famous in the Mahabharata. They are found in the Ramayana also. So this is where some of the very exaggerated dates of Ramayana, like 12,209 BC for Rama's birth, or 5,114 BC for Rama's birth. And then the same people or some other researchers coming and dating Mahabharata in 3000 BC to 3200 BC, or 5561 BC. Or in other words, anybody who dates Ramayana and Rama and Pandavas separated by thousands of years, they will be totally surprised, because the place names, the Hastinapura, Panchala, Kurujangala are mentioned in Ramayana also. That means this demands, or this actually breaks the chronological. Anybody who dates the Pandavas and Rama separated by thousands of years, they can recall their theories, because you have Hastinapura, Panchala, Kurujangala, etc. mentioned in the Ramayana also. So first reason, for thousands of years the place name will not hold. Nowhere in the world, any place name have continued to stay for thousands of years. Like same name Hastinapura cannot be there in 12,209 BC and also in 3000 BC. So that is itself is an anomaly. But that is not enough. Kurujangala, the name Kurujangala itself is a Mahabharata very clearly mentioned. It is Kuru, the king Kuru, who is in the fifth generation ancestor of Pratibha, the father of Shantanu, or sixth generation ancestor of Shantanu, the king Kuru. He has named Kurukshetra and Kurujangala. So the Kurukshetra and Kurujangala are the name derived from King Kuru. So if you date Kurukshetra war in 5561 BC, assume that it is correct. Then you cannot date Rama at 12,209 BC, because between Kuru and Shantanu, you cannot have more than 125 years gap, because it's only 6 generations or 5 generations. Very precisely, it is just 4 to 5 generations. That is 100 to 120 years. So you have to always stick to say, whichever be the date of Kurukshetra war, Rama's date has to be 100 or 120 years in the past of Kurukshetra war date. Because of this, you cannot have randomly date Rama and Pandavas independently of each other. Because the name Kurujangala which is a name given by King Kuru. Mahabharata is very clear. King Kuru has given the region between Drishadwadi and Saraswati. That is named as Kurukshetra by King Kuru. And the region to the south of Drishadwadi is named as Kurujangala by the King Kuru. So the King Kuru is the source of the names Kurujangala, and that name finds in Ramayana means they are all connected. So that is another important thing. And of course, I also traced the lineages, various lineages from Manu, Ila. Then the Ila's descendants are called Ailas. And you have Panchajanas, or 5 different types of Ailas: Yadavas, Turvasas, Drifyus, Anus, and Purus. And among the Purus, the Bharatas emerged. And among the Bharatas, you have 3 branches, like Samvarana Bharata branch, which leading to the Pandavas, Tritsu Bharata branch, which leads to the Panchalas, and Kushika Bharatas leading to Vishwamitra and others. And you have Kuru, then this Kuru's descendant is Pradipa, then Shantanu. And from Shantanu, then Vijay, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, Kauravas, etc., all the people. But the entire Ramayana is all about the son of Manu. So Mahabharata basically focused on the daughter of Manu, Ila, and her descendants, were Ramayana focused on Ikshaku, the son of Manu, and Ikshwaku. Again, unknown to many people, there are 2 splits. Ikshwaku split into 2 parts. The Western Ikshwakus, they are mentioned in the Rigveda, like Trasadasya, Purugutsa, everybody. And Tarksha, because Trasadasya and Purugutsa, the alternate name for Western Ikshwaku is Trikshis. And the name Tarksha is used for Garuda, indicating that Garuda is an Ikshwaku. But of course, not Eastern Ikshwaku, but Western Ikshwaku. And Jardayu and Sampadi, all of they are Tarkshas or Western Ikshwakus. But the Vālmīki has rendered them as birds. But actually, they are human, normal Ikshwakus, but having a totem of bird, etc. So they are not really birds, but Trikshi lineage kings. Some of the Trikshis are mentioned in the Rigveda, Prasadasya and Purugutsa. And Eastern Ikshwakus, because the original homeland of Ikshwaku was Saraswati. From there, one branch migrated to west, another migrated to east. Those who migrated to west, they established on Gomati and Saryu tributaries of Sindhu river. So Gomati tributary of Sindhu is known as Gomal in Pakistan. Saryu of tributary of Sindhu is known as Haro in Pakistan. So they were living there, the Trasadasya and Purugutsa, the Tarkshyas or Trikshis. And the Eastern Ikshwakus migrated from the Saraswati to eastwards. So Amshuman is one of the person who shifted to Yamuna, and that is why Yamuna is called Amshumati. And then Dilipa is there, who moves further eastwards, and then Bhagirath established in Ganga. That is why you have the famous narrative of Bhagirath bringing Ganga. But the poet inverted actually, instead of telling that Bhagirath migrated to Ganga, the poets poetically invert it and say Ganga followed Bhagirath. Ganga went towards Bhagirath, but historically Bhagirath moved towards Ganga. And Bhagirath's son Kakutsa, Raghu, all these people moved eastwards to Gomati. And finally, Aja, Dasharatha, and Rama established in the Sarayu river. And the capital Ayodhya is formed there. So these are all I have mentioned. The Anava lineage, they are the Daitya Danavas. So in the Puranas, the Anavas are mentioned as Daityas or Danavas or as Asuras. And the current descendants, they are the Iranians. And of course, some Greeks and Albanians, all these people are part of the Daitya Danava lineages. And then if I just focus on the geography, so this is the ultimate nutshell of the Ramayana geography. So for example, whatever the deep yellow color Saraswati, Sindhu, Narmada civilization region, so that is the Rigvedic geography, which like the Saraswati was the homeland. From there, eastward migration towards Uttar Pradesh and westward migration towards Afghanistan. So that is what happened in the Rigvedic. That is a Rigvedic geography. So if you analyze 10 mandalas of Rigveda, you will see around 32 rivers, and they are spanning into the yellow color, the dark yellow color, from western Uttar Pradesh Ganga to eastern Afghanistan, where the Kabul river, the Kubha river flows. And whatever Ramayana, what is captured is the further expansion of the Vedic civilization up to Bihar. That is why you have Mithila and of Janaka, and Sita is born there. So Bihar is now the horizon of the Vedic civilization in the eastern direction, and to the south it is a Narmada river. And yeah, some of the surprises what I want to tell is, so I locate Lanka as an island on the mouth of Narmada river, because it may be surprising and shocking in the beginning, but if you look at the history of the Ravana's ancestors, 3 of the Ravana's ancestors married daughters of Narmada. So that itself is a very indication that Ravana's Rakshasa lineage is associated with Narmada river. That is Malyavat, Mali, Sumali, the grandfathers of Ravana married daughters of Narmada. It is written very clearly in Ramayana. Not only that, you look at the enemies of Ravana. One is Kartavirya Arjuna, who is ruling at Mahishmati, the largest city on the Narmada river. And of course, I have identified Kishkinda as Bhimbedka cave network, and Vandaras as the Neolithic culture in the Bhimbedka cave network, etc. So that Bhimbedka is very close to Narmada river. So the second enemy of Ravana, that is Bali or Vali, he is also very close to the Narmada valley. So there are 2 enemies of Ravana mentioned very clearly in the Ramayana. They are part of the Narmada river network, Narmada river. One is Kartavirya Arjuna, and another one is Bali, Vandra domains. And again, surprise, if you look at the priest of Indrajit, the Indrajit priest is a Bhargava. And Bhargava stronghold is also on the Narmada. You know, Baruch, I have shown here Baruch here, Bhargokaksha. That is the stronghold of the Bhargava lineage, ascetics. So one of the Bhargava Rishi was the advisor to Indrajit. He advises Indrajit to perform Vaishnava sacrifice, Vaishnava yajna, and then Indrajit performs and gets some strength. But Ravana scolded him. Why are you practicing Vedic? Why are you doing this Vedic ritual, etc.? And not only it doesn't stop at that point. If you look at Kumbhakarna's wife, she was a granddaughter of Vairocana. Vairocana, of course, Virojana's son. So Ramayana is not very clear. Virojana may have many sons, but Mahabali is one of the greatest sons of Virojana. And Mahabali also, the Vamana came and met Mahabali in the Bhargokaksha. There was a Shukra, Bhargava Shukra was there. And that entire narrative about Vamana interacting with the Mahabali very strongly associated with the Bhargokaksha. And Mahabali's or Vairojana's granddaughter is the wife of Kumbhakarna's, Kumbhakarna's wife. So you use so many data points, more than half a dozen, connect Ravana with the Narmada River Valley. And I have that is one of the aspects, but I have also looked done the analysis of the movement of Rama. So from this Panchavadi, that is located in a Satna district of Madhya Pradesh, Rama is moving to westwards. After meeting Kabantha, Rama is moving westwards and he reached Bhimbedka. And then further, the Vandaras, when they were searching for Sita, even though there is a four sargas are inserted in between, which talks about all the places all over the world, but they are found to be later additions, because there is a lot of evidences in the Ślokas, 4 sargas where the Sugriva mentioned Vanaras to search in the 4 direction, as if there is no, because already there is an intelligence that Sita is in the Lanka. That intelligence is already there. So that is why the 4 sargas where the Sita is searched in the north, in the south, and the west and the east direction. It is based on the copy of whatever happens in the Mahabharata, that the 4 Pandava brothers from Indraprastha, they do Digvijaya in the eastern, northern, western, southern direction. As if inspired by that, some later points have inserted the 4 sargas where the Sita is searched. So I have considered as identified as later addition. Because Sita is being searched in Mithila also, where Mithila means Janaga's kingdom. So Sita, they are searching Sita in the Mithila is they are searching Sita in Ayodhya also. So that's completely absurd actually. So I consider it is a later edition. So in that, but it contains a lot of information, but of course not added contemporary to Sri Rama, but in a later period, where it mentions about cities in the southern India, like Musiripatana, the Marichipatana is mentioned. Then some other this Tamraparni river is in Tamil Nadu is mentioned. Then there is another port city in the Chennai, in the Tamil Nadu, that is also mentioned as Kavada, the seaport. So, but of course, all of these are later edition. It's also mentioned about Indonesian region, Siberia, everything. And then after the 4 sargas, where the Sugriva just tells that nobody goes anywhere, but Sugriva just tells to go all these places. After that, the real search start, and then in the real search, the Vanaras only move along Vindhya mountains, and I have traced that even though they move slightly southwards, they have never come out of the Vindhya mountains, and they were moving westwards, and finally reaching somewhere close to the Lanka, which I identified in the mouth of Narmada. So I will show you that map. So just I am giving in the early information. So like for example, after this Vedic, in the compared to the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, there was some more like migrations to the southern directions. One is Shurparaga in the western coast of Maharashtra, and the Mahendragiri in the eastern coast of eastern coast in the Orissa. So these were the newfound land, like you have a terminology in the newfound land. So from between Rama Era to Pandava Era, these were the newfound land, Shurparaga and Mahendra mountain. Both are mentioned as places where Parashurama went. All the land known to that period was given as a dana to Kashyapa. That is why the land is called Kashyapi. Earth is called Kashyapi. And then Kashyapa asked Parashurama, "Don't stay in my domain." That means he has to move to some unknown territory, which is not yet explored. And there are 2 versions of Parashurama moving. One version he moved to Shurparaga, and in another version he moved to the Mahendra mountains. So they are the newfound lands. So that's just some introductory thing. And in my book, now in the next slides, which I move very fast, I will tell you what are the other research exploration I have done. One, I have done the migration exploration of the migration of the Kikatas, who are a kind of Rigvedic clan, which they migrated eastwards, like the arrow indicated. They became the Magadhas, the Magadha Janabada. So later they transformed into the Magadha Janabada. They were the Kikatas, somewhere living close to the Mathura. From there, they migrated slowly, one after the other, with some cities like Mahodaya, Kaushambi, then like that. They finally reached the Magadha. So Brihadratha, the oldest Magadha king, is mentioned in Rigveda because of the same reason. And it also mentioned about the 4 kings of the Brihadratha lineage. One is Mahodaya, you can see the arrow, then Kaushambi, then Dharmaranya, that is today known as Gaya, and Girivraja, that is this Rajgir, capital of Magadha. And you can see the Girivraja or Rajgir mentioned. Girivraja means surrounded by mountains. So you can see the map, the satellite map. Girivraja is surrounded by 4 or 5 mountains. Krishna is describing that 4 or 5 mountains to Bhima and Arjuna in the Mahabharata. Then you have there is some mention about Kanyakubja, the Kanauj district in UP, that is known as Kanyakubja. That narrative about Kanyakubja is there in the Ramayana. It also mentioned about the Sarayu river where it originates. So it is originating in the Manasa Saras. That is also the name indicates Sarayu, originating near to the originating from a lake. So it is a Manasa Saras. So today's Sarayu is slightly shifted, but in the beginning, during the Rama era, the Sarayu's point of origin was Manasa Saras. Now it is slightly offset. And it also talks about Vishwamitra's association with Kaushiki river. So in the Rigveda, Vishwamitra is associated with 2 other rivers in Punjab. That is Vipasha and Satadru, the Bias Satluj. But in Ramayana, Vishwamitra is associated with Kaushiki in Bihar. That is because there is a migration that has happened of the Kushiga lineage. So Ramayana is capturing the last point of the migration, where the Kushiga lineage reached the Bihar region. And then I discuss about Sagara, the ancestral king of the eastern Ikshvakus. So he was living like ruling in the Sarayu River. Sorry, the Saraswati River, which is also known as Sarayu, because the Ikshvakus call it Sarayu or Ikshumati, whereas the Aila kings call the same river as Saraswati. So that is why this Saraswati is also known as Ikshumati and also known as Sarayu. Mahabharata captures the term Ikshumati for Saraswati in Adi Parva, which is I am actually mentioning in my third book. And you can see, like, if you look at the Sagara's son, Asamanja was a bad king, he was very bad. He was throwing the children of Sagara's citizen into Sarayu River, that is Saraswati River. And so Sagara banished Asamanjas, but Asamanja's son Amshumat, that is grandson of Sagara, was a good king. He migrated to Yamuna. That is why Yamuna is called Amshumati, another name of Yamuna. And then Diliba is moving, like I mentioned, like Diliba moves to the little more eastern river called Bahuda, or Kali River, the currently known as Kali River. It is also known as Ikshumati because of the migration. Saraswati is Ikshumati. So another river in the eastern direction, it's also called Ikshumati. Then Bhagirath moves to Ganga, and then Kakusta moves to Gomati, then Reghu. Here there is an ambiguity, either Reghu or Raja has established in the Sarayu, that is Ghagra River, in tributary of this Ganga. And then I also plot the travel of Rama along with Vishwamitra. So you can see the yellow color. From Ayodhya, he is moving along Sarayu River. He moves eastern direction. He reaches Kamasrama, and then reaching the Tataka, like killing Tataka, and then Tataka is located in the Ara. There is a Ara. There is a location called Ara in Bihar. Then he is going to Siddhasrama, located close to the Sona River. From there, they went to Mithila by crossing Vishala, that is Vaishali, and then Ahalyasrama, and then goes to Mithila. So that I am plotting. So these are kind of travel narratives, and the full map of the travels of Rama you can see in the book Geography of Rāmayaṇa. I also trace the southern Ikshvaku kings who migrated, first of all to Chhattisgarh. So there is some people tell me that, okay, Rama's mother Kausalya is from Chhattisgarh. No, she was from Kashi. That is very clearly mentioned in Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa. But later kings migrated to Chhattisgarh, so that this tradition of Kausalya is from Chhattisgarh originated in later. So in further later they reach Andhra Pradesh also. So you have the Ikshvakus of Andhra Pradesh because of that. So that I have tracing that migration, southern migration of the southern Ikshvakus in my book. And then Dasharaja traveling to Ayodhya to meet Rama during the after the Swayamvara. Sita want to marry Rama. So Janaka said, okay, Rama, you have broken the Dhanus. So you have one Sita, so you marry her. So Rama mentioned, I need my father to be present. So then Dasharatha travels to Mithila. That is that map we're showing it here. And of course, the Sadanira River, which is very important because some of the Brahmanas, Shadavada Brahmana mentioned about the migration of Videga Magadas from Saraswati to Sadanira, and finally crossing Kosala and reaching Mithila and establishing the Veda Janapata. So that is why I have a very, very important to Sadanira river. And then I also focus on the Kushathvaja, that is a brother of Janaka. And interestingly, his city is located in the western direction, even west to Ayodhya. That is an anomaly, and I explain that anomaly in the book Saṃskṛt. That is later on now this is not a Saṃskṛt. Buddhist and Jain tradition grew very high, and now it is associated more with Buddhist Jain traditions. But it is a Saṃskṛt was the city of Janaka's brothers Kushathvaja. And I have actually some of the anomaly I am like analyzing in the book. That is what this particular map is about that. And then another surprising that before Rama and Sita and Lakshmana went to Dandakaranya, Dasharatha and Kaikeyi has went to Dandakaranya, because there is a mention in Ramayana but they go into a city called Vaijayanta, where they defeated another king. And in that battle, Dasharatha's chariot got a problem and Kaikeyi rescued Dasharatha. So that is why Kaikeyi knows about Dandakaranya. That is why probably she actually telling that Rama should go to Dandakaranya, because she knows that place. Maybe either she has a negative experience there, we don't know. But it is very, very clear in Ramayana that Kaikeyi and Dasharatha went to Vaijayanta, very close to Dandakaranya. And then here I am showing the Rama's travel from Ayodhya to Chitrakuta, which is very clearly aligns with the traditional understanding, because from Ayodhya, Rama moves to Nandigrama, and then this is a local Tamasa river. So he crosses the local Tamasa, then goes to crossing Veda through the river, kind of a tributary to Tamasa, then close to Gomati, and then Syantiga, which is the boundary of Kashi and Kosala. So to the north of Syantiga is Kosala, and to the south is Kashi. And of course, there was a local king, Nishada Raja, that is in Sringiverapura, there was a local king. So this much of area is the control of the Nishada Raja. But otherwise, to the south is Kashi, and to the north is Kosala, the big Janapadas. This is like a local Janapada. So here the Rama stays for here sometimes, crossing Ganga, and then goes to Prayaga, meet Bharadwaja. From there, he sees some one Nyagroda tree, and then see the Neela Kanala, the blue colored forest. And finally, he reaches the Chitrakuta. That is a Kamatgiri. Today it is between the border of, this is the border of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. So Chitrakuta is here. Very close by it is Atriyas. So this much there is no problem. Everything is perfect, like in tradition, and in the Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa, everything is perfect. Of course, I mentioned here the Chedi Janapada is very close to Chitrakuta, etc. So that I mentioned here. And this is the Dandakaranya, where this Sharabanga, this Sharabanga Asrama is on this particular river. Sharabanga is a river name, and it is a tributary of the Tamasa river, or the Godavari. This is the largest river in the Dandakaranya, with the two names, known by two names, Tamasa and Godavari. And Malyavat and Shuktipat mountains, two mountains, are on both sides of the Dandakaranya. And the river Shuktimati originates from the Shuktimat mountains, and then goes like this. And Chedi capital, Shuktimati, is on the banks of Shuktimat. But these are not relevant to Ramayana, but in Mahabharata, this Chedi kingdom and Shuktimati become very prominent. And the river Shuktimati also mentioned predominant in Mahabharata. Whereas in the Ramayana, it mentioned the Malyavat mountain, and the river that originating from the Malyavat mountain called Malyavati, which is passing through Chitrakuta. It is also known as Mandagini. So the same river is known as Malyavati and Mandagini. This Malyavati got the name because it is originating from the Malyavat mountains. And the Malyavat mountains is also the birthplace of Malyavat, the grandfather of Ravana. So he has a very strong tradition association with this Malyavat, with Madhya Pradesh. Both Malyavat and Mali and Sumali, and their daughter Malyavat daughter Kaikasi, and Kaikasi's children Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana, all people are related to this area, that is Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. And yeah, I mentioned about the this like travel, like after Rama left, the Dasharatha died of grief, and Vasishta, the priest of Dasharatha, asked to bring Bharata from Kekeya Janapada. So messengers are traveling from Ayodhya to Kekeya Janapada. So Kekeya is in the western direction. So they travel like this, and they cross Ganga at Hastinapura, very clearly mentioned in Ramayana. And they pass through Kurujangala and see Panchala Janapada. Of course, Panchala was somewhat to the west of Kuru at that time. Only during the Pandava period, they migrated to the eastern side and established in Kambilya and Hichchatra, somewhere here. So there was a migratory shift for the Panchalas between Rama Era and the Pandava Era. There is within 100 to 120 years. They shifted from the eastern side, western side to the eastern side of the Kuru. That is also I have mentioned in the both Ramayana, the Geography of Rāmāyaṇa, and the subsequent book. So this is what their motion. And then see, after the crossing the Panchala, they pass through Kulinga, that is a mountain kingdom, and then goes through this Vishnupada, which is a mountain with the in the shape of the feet of Vishnu. So that is also I mentioned in the the Vishnupada you can see in Punjab. There are two places, two mountains with shape of Vishnu's feet or a man's feet. And Vishnupada in Punjab is very big, and you can see in the Google map. You can see Vishnupada in the Punjab. Similarly, there is a Vishnupada in Bihar. See the shape of the mountain, Vishnupada in Bihar. So two feet of Vishnu is identifiable on the map of India. One in Punjab, another in Bihar, and this is what giving this particular geographical features giving rise to the concept of Vishnu's three strides of Vishnu. He put 2 feet on the land and the 3rd feet on the head of Mahabali. All these Aidhihyam, these narratives originated from the foot-shaped mountains, Vishnupada, one in Punjab, another in Bihar. So these messengers, while they're traveling, they pass through Vishnupada in Punjab. The Vishnupada is there, and then finally they pass through the many of the other cities and reach Girivaraja, another city bounded by mountains. That is the capital of Kekaya. Not to be confused with the Girivaraja of Bihar. So there is the Girivaraja of Kekaya capital. Girivaraja is there, currently known as Wagh in Pakistan. This is the mountain bounded city Girivaraja, the capital of Kekaya. Then Girivaraja, the capital of Magadha in Bihar. Mountain completely covered, like bounded by mountains. So any city covered by mountain is named as Girivaraja. And then you can have the return journey of Bharata, like from Girivaraja, he is returning like this along Shatadru river, and then this particular path is called the Jambu Marga, which is connecting Mithila to Jammu region. So he passed through the Jambu Marga like this, and then finally, see this is the Jambu Marga. Here he goes to reaches the Kosala and Ayodhya here. So the Bharata came back to Ayodhya, and then of course this is the map where I actually do the equation of because the Yojana and Krosha, the two distance units used in Ramayana is one is Krosha, another is Yojana. So thankfully, like the Vālmīki has given two identifiable locations, Prayaga and Chitrakuta, and given what is the distance in terms of Krosha and Yojana. So between Prayaga and Chitrakuta, it is 10 Krosha. In one sloga, it is mentioned as 10 Krosha. In another sloga, the same distance is mentioned as 2.5 Yojana. And current distance is 120 kilometers. So this is how I calculated the unit distance of Yojana and Krosha mentioned in the Ramayana, which is unrelated to any kind of Krosha and Yojana which is used in, for example, Mauryan period or even contemporary period. We can't use any of those because they are useless. So this is the Chitrakuta satellite map, Kamatgiri. There you can see all the places are mentioned in Bharat Milab. That is where the place where Bharata met Rama under this particular mountain. And okay, that is Lakshman Pahadi. Lakshman stands here and see Bharata army coming. So all this you can directly see in the Chitrakuta. Anybody should visit the place. And from my geographic analysis, I have absolutely no kind of conflict with this identification is perfect. Yeah, traditional identification and whatever Ślokas in Ramayana all match very well. Then Asrama Mandala. So I think if depending upon how much time I have in the talk, I can move faster or slower. Maybe if I have, I think 1 hour.
It's at 12 o'clock, maybe another 15 minutes.
Okay. So in 15 minutes, I'll just pass through. So this is the same methodology. So similarly, I located the Asrama Mandala, very important for the geography of Ramayana, along this particular river. See, you can see Vālmīki Asrama at the one end of the river, Sudishna Asrama at the another end of the river. And between these asramas, so many Rishi Munis have their asrama. That is called Asrama Mandala. So Rama spent around 10 years of his Vanavasa in the Asrama Mandala, switching between various rishis. Somehow they didn't mention that Rama, but of course geographically Vālmīki Asrama is located in the one end of this particular Tamasa river, also known as the this same river is also known as Godavari. So that all the riddle resolved. So only in the Uttarakhanda you get the clarity that Vālmīki Asrama is located in the confluence of this particular river, and that is where when Sita said, "I want to revisit all the places I have visited before," Rama said, "Okay, then I will send you to Vālmīki Asrama." So unless you know this particular geographical riddle, you don't really understand why Rama is sending Sita to Vālmīki Asrama. Because there is nowhere in the Ramayana mentioned like Sita spent some time in Vālmīki Asrama, but that is the inherent internal hidden information. That hidden information is unlocked by only geographical analysis. See, if the traditional identification of places where Sita lived in Panchavadi, they consider that as Nasik. But you see, Rama is not sending Sita to Nasik, because all this Panchavadi, everything is located along this particular river. And she wanted to spend some time with the rishis. So basically, Rama sent her to Vālmīki Asrama so that she can go like this, spend all her time in all the other rishi munis like they have done in the Vairanyakanda, and reach Sudeshna Asrama, then go here and then return back to Vālmīki Asrama. So that was the idea. That is why this is the gate like from Ayodhya, Vālmīki Asrama is closer. So Rama sent Sita to Vālmīki Asrama. So to fulfill her wish of meeting all the rishi munis, they have seen in the Vairanyakanda, first asrama is Vālmīki Asrama. Then she can go to any other asrama up to Sudeshna Asrama, come back, all these things. So only when this geographical analysis we do, this all makes sense. Otherwise, we will be not confused. Why this particular information? Why Rama sends Sita to Vālmīki Asrama when she just asked, "I want to revisit all the places they have lived." For that, why send to Vālmīki Asrama? That answer is this particular geographical analysis. And then, okay, this is only 50 minutes. So I will say, see, the Panchavadi is located in Nasik. Another location is Parnashala in Bhadrachalam. Both of them distance and direction. Neither distance match, nor direction match. Because from Agastya Asrama, the Agastya is very clearly mentioned Rama to go northwards direction. See, northwards. So Chitrakuta is to the north of Agastya Asrama, very clear. So that is why these things cannot be accepted. Nasik or Parnashala cannot be accepted as Panchavadi. So it is located along this particular Godavari, this Godavari river, and that in that Chitrakuta is the location. Chitrakuta location is on the Malyavati, which is a river originating in the Malyavat mountain, and this Godavari or Tamasa is originating from the Shuktimat mountains. And Panchavadi is to the north. So that now here actually you can see the exact location of Panchavadi I identified based on the Yojana distances. So there is Janasthana is a Satna capital city. That is currently known as Janasthana is currently known as Satna. Even the name Satna is actually originally Sthana, and Sthana is basically Janasthana. So Janasthana becomes Sthana, and Sthana becomes Satna, like that. And Panchavadi location is there slightly to the north, to the east of it. And here actually, I think better you can full details I have given in the book. The identification of Lanka very close to the Batukaksha Baroj. So it was an island in 2000 BC period, and now it is a peninsula because of some siltation happened, just like Dholavira, which was an island earlier with a seaport. It was a seaport. Bhagatrao, this is the Bhagatrao Harappan city, which I identify Lanka. And Harappan city is a very rich and with so much of, in Ramayana you mentioned so much different kinds of food, different kinds of wealth, everything in Lanka. That is very clearly a Harappan city. And Vishwakarma built it. The Vishwakarma is an indication of a Harappan engineer. So Vishwakarma basically means Harappan engineer. So again, Vishwakarma built Lanka means some Harappan engineer built the Lanka. So all these things. And again, I mentioned about that connection of Ravana's lineage with Narmada river. So that is why identity of Lanka in this location. And there is a location of marriages slightly to south, where you have plantain and coconut trees, etc. Of course, the density of coconut trees and plantain, everything is very high in Kerala. But the Yojana distances, when I calculate, it is somewhere to the Gujarat-Maharashtra border, marriages location. And the entire western seashore is similar climate of Kerala in the ancient period. Later on, slightly changed, but in the ancient period, any seashore in the Western Ghats, from whether it is southern Gujarat, Maharashtra, or Karnataka or Kerala, all look similar with coconut trees and plantain trees, etc. So that is what I mentioned. And there is a explanation of Goda, this possible extension of the Dandakaranya to the Bihar region. I have explored that. And then I mentioned about how Marija reached this Asrama Mandala, because they were telling, let us go to Asrama Mandala to abduct Sita. So Asrama Mandala is the destination. So from here, Marija goes to this like this. They reach Asrama Mandala, abduct the Sita. And I also look at the relative motion of Rama after the Marija abduction, everything, to check whether my identifications are correct. So they move like this from Janasthana to southwards to Kabanda. And from Kabanda, it is a westward path. And you can see that westward path in the satellite maps. So they move like this to the westward path. And see, this is the Kabanda location. There, along the westward path, they move through the Hiran River, tributary of Narmada, and then tracing Narmada, they reach this Rish Pampa, Pampa Saras here, and Kishkinda is here somewhere. This to the Bimbedka, that is here. So that is how the Kabanda mentioned, like Kishkinda is to the west of the current location. So you can see Bimbedka is to the west of the current location of Rama, and he moves like this. And the entire path is in the satellite map. You can see this path actually. The plan, there are two mountains, and there is a planar path through which you can go westwards to Kishkinda. That is there. And all the local places in the Kishkinda, there are places related to Dundubi, there is Dunduani near to Kishkinda. That is the enemy of Vali. Dundubi is here, Dunduani. And Shabari Asrama is there, Madanga Asrama, Pambar, Saras, Rishyamuka, everything is there. Then Bandarbhan Ghat. This is a place where you can switch from land. No, there is if you are riding a chariot, you can reach here and then switch to a boat. And along the boat, you can reach Lanka. So this is the point at which Sita exchanged the ornaments to the Vanaras. So there is a Prasravana here. So Vanaras, 5 Pancha Vanaras, Hanuman, Sugriva, and 3 others were located here. At that time, Sita threw the ornaments. Ravana was switching from the land vehicle, that is a chariot, towards a boat. So while that switching happened, Sita threw the ornaments to the Panchavanaras. Ravana did not notice it. And the Panchavanaras finally fought with Bali, and then they established Kishkinda. That's all mentioned. So these are the later edition sargas I mentioned. And here you can see large number of locations, eastern places. They mentioned Videha and Kashi Kosala, where Sita is searching. So it's totally a later edition, because there is no point searching Sita in Videha, Kashi Kosala, etc. And in the eastern region, they mentioned about Java Islands. All these things are mentioned in the Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa, in the later edition sargas. So even this much region there, Yavadvipa is the Java Islands. All these places are mentioned. In the southern regions, it mentioned about, of course, in the southern places, this Kerala, Pandichola, all is mentioned. And in the far south, this is the Kavadam, the Korke, and the other city, Mushiris, Marichipatana. All these places are mentioned. And there is a the Ramayana point in an intermediate period tried to locate Lanka in the Kanyakumari region. That also I have identified with Mahendragiri located here in the southern, in the Kanyakumari district, Tamarbarni, all these things. And in the western side, they didn't go much places. And in the northern side, they even mentioned Siberia, etc. But actual places, this is the actual places where real search, where actually they moved. These are all just Sugriva said, 4 directions, but this is the actual search of Angada. There now, if you trace that, it is only along Vindhya mountains. They are not even going anywhere south other than the Vindhya mountains. So from Kishkinda, they have just tracing the Vindhya mountains and reaching here. The end of Vindhya is somewhere here in Gujarat, the western end of Vindhya. From there, they reach the southern ocean. You can see the ocean is south here. And to the south of the southern, the ocean so is the Lanka. So that is where the true location of Lanka, from Mahendragiri here to Lanka, the distance and direction doesn't match. Well, it's a north to south motion, but Sri Lanka is in the eastern direction, so this particular direction doesn't match. And these are the three different Lanka identification. Like one is the Mahendragiri in Orissa. Then from there you can go southwards to reach Lanka. Another is the Mahendra Mountains in Kanyakumari. From there you can south. There is a mountain which is identified as Lanka. Because earlier this entire region was submerged, the Kumari Kandam. The entire region was submerged, so this particular mountain was an island. This Lanka mountain indicated as Lanka was an island. And from Mahendragiri to this Lanka is also one possibility. Another is this northern shore of Narmada to Lanka. And there is a small island also here in between, like Mainaka, that is a Narmada Tulsi Island. So this is the identification I have accepted, and these are the alternate theories which I reject. So this is all I mentioned here in the different maps, how the later poets try to bring Rama to Mahendragiri in the Lanka, still not in Sri Lanka, but in Kanyakumari, etc. That I have mentioned about the distance and direction mismatch. Well, if you are taking Rameshwaram into the equation, then the distance and direction mismatch. Okay, this is the location from where Vanaras assembled to in the Lanka. Now that location I have identified. The location from which the medicine of mountain, right? It is basically there is a Malaya Rishabha mountain in the Marutwa Malay mentioned in the Kanyakumari district, and then that is coming into the some of the verses like that I mentioned. And the last, the return journey, like I was trying whether my locations are correct by checking the return journey, whether the return journey, all the data in the verses, whether it creates any anomaly. Absolutely no anomaly. I got the perfectly, like from starting from Lanka. Even there is a mention of halt at Kishkinda. Everything perfectly match, and then they reach this older location, Kabanda, Janasthana, and then Chitrakoda, Bharadwaja, Asrama, Singiverapura. Everything, the return journey, I could recreate the return journey by my own identifications, absolutely without any error. Then the Uttarakhanda shows the locations related to Rakshasas. You can see so many locations are associated with the Narmada. And other locations are all in northern side, not even a single location to the south. These are all the locations related to Rakshasas. That is both Ravana and the ancestors of Ravana. I plotted all the locations. Some of them are Kailasa, etc. But still none of them are in the south. Then you can see the locations related to Ravana. Again, you see all locations, see large number of locations are on Narmada River. And then these are mentioned in the northern Digvijaya of Ravana, some Kailasa, etc. is mentioned. Only this Ashmanagara is slightly to the south of Narmada, not a single location further south. And then banishment of Sita, I mentioned, like she reached the Vālmīki Asrama, because that is the starting point of this Asrama Mandala along Goda and the Godavari River of Tamasavir, reaching up all the rishis. And then the Shatrughna conquest, this is in Uttarakhanda, like how Shatrughna conquered Mathura, and how Bharata conquered the Gandhara cities, Pushkaravada and the Takshashila, established his sons there. And these are all the sum total of the places mentioned in the Uttarakhanda, where Rama goes to south to see Agastya, etc. That I have plotted here. And yeah, finally, the place where Lava and Kusha recite Ramayana, that is in Naimisharanya. And this should actually spark some light in the people. Same Naimisharanya is where Mahabharata is recited by Suta, that is Sauti to this Shaunaka. So both Ramayana and Mahabharata is recited in the Naimisharanya. Lava Kusha narrated to Rama in Naimisharanya. Suta Pauranika recited to Shaunaka. The Mahabharata is recited by Suta Pauranika, again in Naimisharanya. Of course, I think it's very irrelevant if there is a less amount of time. The mention of Sudas, Rigvedic Sudas in the Uttarakhanda that I have analyzed. And this is the overall Ramayana atlas, the various cities mentioned in the Ramayana. Again, all of them are in the northern side. Assume, of course, with Lanka established in the mouth of Narmada and Mahishmati, Kishkinda, Vidisha, all places mentioned in Ramayana. Cities, new red color is new cities, and blue color is existing. New city means the sons of Rama, Bharata, Lakshmana, and Shatrughna. So the next generation cities: Pushkaravada, Takshashila, Vidisha, Madhupura, Mathura, Sravasti, then Angadiya, the sons of this Lakshmana, and Kushavadi and Chandrakanda, again Lakshmana's son, one of the son here. Kushavadi, there are two cities, Kushavadi, one is here and another one is here, related to Kusha. Sravasti is for Illava. Pushkaravada, Takshashila for Bharata's sons. Angadiya and Chandrakanda for Lakshmana's sons. And Madhupura and Vidisha for Shatrughna's sons. And again, this is also the some of this is again an atlas of Ramayana locations. Some of the it is a sum total of all places, irrespective whether it's older or later edition I have put it. So even the Maricipatana, Jatipura, and Kavadam, 4K in the Tamil Nadu and Kerala are mentioned. That I am putting in a map. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, thanks, Jijith. A lot of information and a little different than what we are used to traditionally. When the Lanka moving to Gujarat area, then from Sri Lanka, it's a little
Yes.
Change in the mindset. I'm sure you have some evidences to support your thesis.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So we have only a few minutes for questions. We have Lovina Shrivastava. Please go ahead and ask a question, please.
Thank you so much for unmuting me. Well, first of all, thanks for the session. It was like the person mentioned, I do not know his name, the Index Seminars host. I suppose it was very informational. It changes quite a few things geographically in the mindsets. I have two questions actually. One is while you were estimating the relative timelines of Mahabharata and Ramayana, at that time, you made an assumption about the names of places that historically we have seen that they do not last, the name of the places do not last over thousands of years. So it's actually, I'm a little bit confused. So how do you explain the names of certain places like Ayodhya, like Kashi, Chitrakoot? There are so many places that we see mentions of exactly the same names, even for rivers. If we say Ganga, Godavari, Narmada, they're the exact same names that we see mentions of in ancient texts like Ramayana, as well as we use the exact same names today.
Yes. So the name, the sticking, the consistency of the name across multiple millennia is one of the weakest point I mentioned, but the other strong points remains, like the Kuru Jangala being named after Kuru, and the impossibility of King Kuru to be in the 12,000 BC, etc. So that is the main point. This is an auxiliary point because there is a general assumption, like typically among Indians, that because of the Yuga theory, 43,000 43 lakhs 20,000 year Chatur Yuga. So that because of that, keeping in the mind of people, they think that all the names are lakhs of years continuing. But if you look at the history, the kind of names sticking together, one name without any change stick together is around 5,000 years maximum. And beyond 5,000 years, things get faded. Just like sun set in the west, some of the names start fading away. So, of course, I mentioned I date the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Rama Era and the Pandava period, all later to 2000 BC. So, as far as I am concerned, it is 4,000 years persistence of the name. And of course, once we reach a period of recording everything, like the internet era and etc., things will not be like lost. The names will not be lost. Like, for example, Now, after 1900 CE, we have the writing, the literature, written literature, everything very advanced. You can record any kind of information. So now onwards, things will not be fading away. But in the ancient period, when everything was an oral tradition, the typical period by which a name can continue without modification is maximum 5,000 years. So if there is any name existing in 12,000 BC, and if the oral traditions are continuing, then that name will fade away. Like, for example, any names in 12,000 BC will fade away by around 5,000 BC, for example. So that is what I mentioned. Again, even if the evolution of the languages, because names are carried by the language itself. So the language also, it's typically 5,000 to 6,000 years is the age of a language. Then it will start moving, migrate, means either the older language will fade away and the daughter languages will take its place. So that's a kind of dynamics will take place. And if you look at rivers, again, similarly is a river. The path of the river keep on shifting. Some rivers move very dynamically change. Some rivers change slowly. But typically in 10,000 years, you can't, all the maps of the rivers become indistinguishable. That much change will happen. So these are all the dynamics happening, like things change, language change in 5,000 years, rivers change in 5,000 to 10,000 years. All these things, because of this, culture keep on changing. So I was basically having an objection on some of the dates which are putting Rama in the 12,000 BC. That was I was referring to. It cannot stand. Again, because of the connections also, right? Not just because of the evolution of the names, but because of the other connections. Like I mentioned about Vasishta to Vyasa connection, Shantanu to Parikshit connection, and Kuru giving the names like Kurujangala and Kurukshetra mentioned in Ramayana. These are the stronger reasons.
Thank you. Rajeshwari ji, please go ahead.
Yes, namaste. So one question I had, actually, Lavina ji already asked the same question. The second question I have, actually, a couple quick ones. One is the placement of Lanka. It's extremely surprising where you place it in near Gujarat, because in Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa, it's clearly there are slok after slok, sarga after sarga mentioning where the location is. It's 100 years out. It's out in the sea, the pull and Ram Setu, all of that, right? So that is extremely confusing to see. The second thing is about, I wonder what your thoughts are on Sugriva's travels that are also mentioned very much in detail in all the 4 directions when he gives directions to the army. Dhanyavad.
Yeah. So Lanka I also mentioned about, because if you entirely analyze the history of Ravana, mentioned primarily in Uttarakhanda, that the entire lineage of Ravana is strongly associated with Narmada. So that that itself gives a weightage that of any location of Lanka in the Narmada river. But then I am not only going with that. I will also looking at the cumulative directional path, that is wherever the Rama is mentioned moving westwards, I will also locate, I will try to trace it in the map. So like that, again, as I mentioned, all the researchers just ignore the northward motion of Rama from Agastya Asrama to Panchavadi. The reason why they ignore is because tradition, it's like a magnet. It is trying to say that, okay, Panchavadi is in Nasik. Or there is another equally competing tradition in Andhra Pradesh saying that Panchavadi is in Bhadrajalam. There is a location called Parnashala in Bhadrajalam. That is Panchavadi. So either of these tradition automatically sits into the brain of the researcher. They will ignore the northern motion of Rama from Agastya Asrama to Panchavadi. But I am actually not ignoring it. I am just tracing it. And then what I did, there is a westward motion, which again people ignore actually. Because in the minds of people, Rama is always moving southward. But that is not what you see in the verse, in the Ślokas. From Panchavadi, after meeting Kabandha, there is a very strong westward motion. So these 2 motions, one is the northward motion of Rama from Agastya Asrama to Panchavadi is ignored. And the westward motion of Rama from Kabandha to Kishkinda is ignored. That is why you automatically locate, because after ignoring these 2 major motions, you locate the Panchavadi in Nasik or Bhadrajalam and Lanka in Sri Lanka, etc. Now, again, in the Ramayana, Lanka is mentioned in the southern ocean. So typically, people think Southern Ocean means the ocean to the south of Kanyakumari. But that is in the literature, in the literature, both in the Mahabharata and the Rigveda and all the Brahmanas are, the Southern Ocean is actually the ocean to the south of Sindhu and Saraswati. So wherever the Sindhu and Saraswati drains in the Arabian Sea, that ocean is mentioned as Southern Ocean, Dakshina Samudra. So the Dakshina Samudra is basically the Samudra that is surrounding the Gujarat area. Of course, Dakshina Samudra is typically the Rann of Kutch, where the Saraswati is draining, and the Karachi region, where the Sindhu is draining. But that entire ocean, which is surrounding Gujarat, including the Gulf of Kambat, where Narmada is draining, it's all technically Dakshina Samudra. And my Lanka is located inside Dakshina Samudra. So that way also it is very much correct actually. And another thing is after analyzing so many of the references in Mahabharata and Ramayana, I mentioned Vishwakarma. So there is a terminology Vishwakarma used in Puranas and in the Itihasas. Almost always referred to Harappan engineers or city builders, etc. If any Saṃskṛt verse says that this city is built by Vishwakarma, typically that means that city is a Harappan or built by the Harappan engineers. That kind of equation you can generate by analyzing so many references. So Dwaraka is built by Vishwakarma, basically. So Dholavira is I have identified as Dwaraka, again a Harappan city. Bhagatrav is again a Harappan city, so it is rightfully called as built by Vishwakarma. And again, if you look at the entire culture of the Ravana, actually it's a culture which is similar to Rama's culture, because they have Chaduranga army, there is elephants, there is horses, there is chariots. So if you look at the Chaduranga army was actually typically a Indo-Gangetic culture, but of course Narmada is a satellite area which is very similar to Indo-Gangetic cultural continuity. So if it is not found in Narmada, I mean, if it's not found in Indo-Gangetic plain, the only place you can find it, especially in this ancient period of 2000 BC, is only in Narmada. And of course, in Bhimbedka, the Bhimbedka identified as a Neolithic culture, as considered as Vanara culture. They have like painted the chariots and horses. Basically, these are the chariot and horses of the Narmada civilization, because there are two main kingdoms along Narmada. One is the Mahishmati of Kartavira Arjuna. Another one is Ravana's Lanka and etc. So again, they are also coming together as friends and enemies. So a lot of interaction. So there are so many data points. And of course, I understand that may be overwhelming for hearing it for the first time. But my book, Rivers of Rigveda, or Geography of Rāmāyaṇa, very structured. I have mentioned all the evidences and the logical reasoning I put in the book, and I would like anybody to read the book. And again, if there are some doubts and if it is not convincing, then definitely you can connect with me and I can explain it in more detail. And regarding Lanka, I think the last question is about Lanka. Mentioned like even if you ignore all these identification, the directions are not matching for Sri Lanka, because Hanuman jumped from Mahendragiri to southern direction. There is not even a mention of Dehi moving eastwards. So Lanka is into the eastern direction. For example, if you take Mahendragiri as the Mahendragiri in Kanyakumari, Sri Lanka is to the eastern direction, so that it is disqualified, automatically disqualified as Sri Lanka as a Lanka. Even otherwise, the ancient literature, wherever it is mentioned about is Sri Lankan region, they don't call it Lanka. They call that Sri Lanka as a Tamraparni Island or a Simhala Dvipa. These are the ancient names for the Sri Lanka. And if you look at the history of Sri Lanka, they will tell you 1976 or something. I don't remember the exact year. It's only in 1976 they adopted Sri Lanka as the official name of that Ceylon. And Ceylon is nothing but Sinhala Dvipa. Ceylon is actually the Portuguese corruption word for Sinhala Dvipa. That Sinhala Dvipa, when they Westerners pronounce it, becomes Ceylon. So till that time it was known as Sinhala Dvipa. Only in 1976 they called it Sri Lanka.
Thank you. Avnashji, please go ahead. So only a couple more, because we are running out of time. It's already very late in Bharat.
Actually, I've got quite a few questions. The most important one is probably the length of Yojana.
Yes.
Now, I've read somewhere it says 2.5 miles, somewhere it says 4.5 miles, another place it says 8 miles, and in your sort of today you said 2.5 yojana is 120 kilometers.
20 meters.
So how many?
Yeah, there are two sets of yojanas in Ramayana.
Okay.
One yojana is used for measuring only length, breadth, and height. It is not used for measuring distances. Length, breadth, and height of cities, mountains, bridges.
Okay.
That is 120 meters. Very small, 120 meters. Another one is 48 kilometers for measuring distance between 2 points. That are the two sets of yojana used in the Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa.
So how long is the one which is to measure the distances?
That is 48 kilometers. And it is derived from the like actual distance between Prayaga and Chitrakuta, because these two locations there is no ambiguity. Prayaga is
so you mean one yojana is equal to 48 kilometers?
Yes, one yojana is to 48 kilometers.
That means the size of Ayodhya at that time was considered to be 12 yojanas long and 3 yojanas wide.
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned.
So does it mean that is about 600 kilometers long?
That's what I initially mentioned now, right? The length, breadth, and height of cities, mountains, and bridges. Anything that is the dimensionality. It is not distance, dimensionality. Like length, breadth, height of cities, mountains, and bridges measured using the smaller yojana, 120 meters.
Now, what I want to know is what would be the size of Ayodhya at the time of Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa?
Yeah. So it is 12 yojanas and 12 yojanas long and 3 yojanas wide. So you have to multiply
in today's measurements, it will be how much?
Yeah, you have to multiply 12 with 120 meters. I can tell you. 12
times what? 48. That's 576 kilometers long.
It is 1.4 kilometer long and this 120 into 3, right? And 360 meters wide. And it is very much matching with the Harappan cities. If you look at the size of the Harappan city, that will be also like this, like few kilometers, like it's a 2.5 kilometer wide and
just to be brief, what would be the size of Ayodhya in today's measurement according to Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa? 12 times 48 kilometers, or did you say meters?
I said for cities it is 120 meters. One yojana is 120 meters for length, breadth, and height. So when we say size of Ayodhya, it is length and breadth. So automatically you have to switch to the smaller yojana. So 120 meters into 12 and 120 meters into 3.
Only 120 meters.
360 meters wide and around 1.2 kilometers long.
360 is nothing. 360 meters.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry to interrupt Jijith and Avinash. I know this is a very good discussion, but I know we are just short on time now. So if you can
just I will tell one thing.
One last comment, and then we can we need to stop. It's already pretty late.
Yeah, you can check the size of Rakhigarhi, the largest city, and Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They are all similar in size.
There's a lot of questions coming up, and it's perhaps Jijith can come again with a follow-up. We can collect questions, send it to him, and he can clarify. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yes. I suggest because all the questions raised here already answered in the book. So I suggest you can read the book, and if there are follow-up questions, I can have another session, and I can also share my email ID. So that also you can do some correspondence.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's very late. Thank you everybody for attending today. And we'll definitely have Jijith on a follow-up session soon. And it's a good scholarly exercise, and perhaps raises a lot of questions, and which I'm sure he has answers to. And thank you so much. And for those in Bharat, have a good night. And for those in North America, thank you so much. Thanks, Jijith. Thanks for presenting today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. Thank you.